Hi everyone, this is Gary Tonicourt from MoreThanASnapshot.com. Today I want to talk to you about an update that was made to Adobe Lightroom CC Classic, and it was about using the merge, photo merge to HDR for a panorama. So I just happened to have shot a HDR panorama this weekend at a trip to the White Mountains in New Hampshire. So it's a good time to test it. I don't know if this picture is going to come out good or not, but at least we'll get a chance to see how well this new tool in Lightroom version or release 8 really works. So the first thing I did was identified all the images that were in this panorama. And so I marked them with a pick and I gave them a color just to make sure. You can see that I shot them about 2 stops apart. Here's 2 stops under, here's about in the middle, and then 2 stops over. And so here's the first frame, then I shifted to the right, here's the next 3 shots, and then I shifted to the right again, the next 3 shots. Now, I was using a wide angle lens and I shot it horizontally, so I'm going to end up with probably a very long, narrow panorama, but I'm really just trying to see how well the software is going to handle this. This is going to be, a lot of work, a lot of steps. If you had to do it manually, it wouldn't necessarily be hard, but it would take some time. So what I'm going to do is first select all of those images by clicking on the first image and then shift clicking on the last image. And then I'm going to right click on one of the images and then go up to Photo Merge and then HDR Panorama. And that will bring up the panorama window. Let me just Alright, so it took a little bit of time to process, but not long at all. And it has done the HDR, and it has stitched together the panorama. And here you can see, if I zoom in, it looks like it stitched it together fairly well. And you could try some of these other perspectives. I usually find that spherical works fine, and I'm not seeing any weird warping or artifacts from it not blending right. So that's fine. I'm going to use the boundary warp and I'm going to zip it up to 100% to fill in that space. Alright. So now I have my HDR. And all I have to do is accept that. I accept. On this little screen, I can't get to the button to accept it, so I have to move it over for a minute, hit merge, and then it's going to merge them. Here it is, it's processing. It'll take a few minutes. And it should be a DNG. We should be able to process it like any other RAW file when it's done. I'll just go through a very basic edit to see what the final image looks like. I really like how Lightroom does HDR. It creates a very natural look, and I think that's really great. So I'm just going to start off. I'm going to try camera standard or camera landscape and see which one I think looks better. Landscape makes the colors pop. Yeah, so I think I'll go with camera landscape. Maybe it saturates the colors a bit too much, so I can probably take that down a bit. Now the white balance looks pretty good, but I might experiment. It was sun, so let me try daylight, makes it too blue, auto. Alright, that takes a bit of that saturation away from the blue sky. Maybe it makes it a little bit too yellow. So I'm going to back it off just a little bit. Alright, so we now have a white balance. The exposure overall doesn't look bad. We are not clipping any highlights, and we are not clipping any shadows. It's already done some basic adjustments here. I'm going to bring in a little bit more black. I don't want to clip it. And let's see what's going on with the contrast. We'll wait till the curves. Maybe I'll give it just a touch of clarity. It's using a bit of vibrance. I'm going to back off a little bit on the vibrance. Alright. I'm going to try some tone curves. Medium contrast gives it a lot. That's so either linear or medium. I think I'm going to keep it at linear for now, and I'm going to do some dodging and burning. Try to get contrast that way. Saturation I think I've handled pretty well so far. I'm not going to do any split toning. Going to do just a bit of sharpening. Going to give it quite a bit of masking. Noise reduction, I'm going to give it a little bit. It was not shot at a high ISO, so I'm not going to put in a whole lot of noise reduction. Maybe I'll go a little bit higher. We will remove chromatic aberration and enable lens correction. It was shot with the 16-35, so that is correct. We don't need to adjust distortion, I don't think. It all looks pretty straight. I will put a little bit of vignette, darken the edges a little bit. No grain. Process version. This is another thing that they've updated to release 8. They've added a process version 5. So you may want to come in here and update to version 5 and update your preset if you're using a preset that uses one of those presets. So now that is all up to date. That's all the editing I would do probably with the general sliders. But I want to do a bit of dodging and burning with the brush tool. So I'm just going to clear everything. And I'm going to take the exposure down just a little bit. Add a little bit of contrast. And maybe a little bit of clarity. Alright, so I'm just going to burn in a few spots, adding in a little contrast to the dark areas. Alright, so I did a little burning in, and now I'm going to get a new brush. I'm going to reset everything. Again, I'm going to increase the exposure just a bit. Maybe I'll do it a little bit more so we can see the effect more, just a little bit of well, I'm going to add clarity here instead. Alright, so now I'm going to try to hit the highlights a bit. Add a little highlight contouring. I especially want to get the mist, the fog that was rolling in here. Just brighten that up a bit. right. Okay, my sky is looking a little bit bright, so I'm going to use a graduated filter. I'm just going to darken the sky just a little bit. Okay, I think I'm happy with that. Then I'm going to get a new gradient, and I feel like the bottom is a little bit dark. So I'm going to brighten the water up a little bit. The water, of course, should be darker than the sky, but right now it's quite dark. So let's see. I don't want to make the water brighter than the sky, but I do want to make it a little bit brighter. Alright, maybe around there. And I might crop the image just a little bit on the bottom. Maybe bring it in a little bit over here. Alright, just finding the edges where I think it'll be alright. Oops, I don't want to clip that. Alright, I'm just trying not to cut off my reflections. Alright, we'll give that a try. Alright, a slight crop. Now, let's take a look at the before and after. Alright, I can see that I've intensified the color in the mountain and made a nice shade of blue in the sky and in the water. And I think it looks good. I think it looks better. Alright, so now I just want to zoom in, let it update. I just want to make sure that there is no strange merging lines that I might have missed. So I'll look across the image at 100%. It's taking a second to update because there's quite a lot of information here. This would be a big file. Each image was shot on a 30 megapixel camera. And so far I'm not seeing any strange seams. So that part worked well. I just might check out one more adjustment here. The shadows have already been pumped up a little bit. Let's see what happens if I go further. Yeah, I think I like a little bit more shadow detail, and maybe I'll take the whites down just a touch and the highlights a bit more. Alright. And I think that will be my final image. That is a panorama that was made out of stitched HDR images, and it was fairly quick and easy to do. And I think you should check out that new tool in Lightroom Classic CC Release 8. more than a snapshot.